Hi, this is Pat Moorhead, and we are back for another episode of the Hot Desk Podcast, episode 2. And I'm here with Melody Brue, Vice President, Principal Analyst of Modern Work here at Moor Insights and Strategy. Mel, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm really excited for this. I was joking, and we dropped it like it was hot, and now we're picking it back up. So,
I know it's
um,
incredible. Love that background in true modern work. You are
yes.
doing remote work, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed with that background.
It is.
A background ranker, A
It,
plus.
yes, I prefer an actual background to. I know all of these like meeting tools have these blurred ones, or you can have some virtual background. I prefer a real background. I'd like one like yours, though. I think that's pretty slick.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in here. I mean, we're going to cover a lot of things over the next couple of weeks, but listen, generative AI is hot, hot, hot. I can't do an advisory, and Mel, it's probably the same for you without discussing that. We're talking hybrid trends, productivity tools, and maybe we'll sneak a little bit of 6.5 Summit in the end. But listen, without further ado, let's just jump right into Microsoft Build. I mean, so from a modern work standpoint, Mel, what types of stuff did you see?
There was so much stuff. I think, with one of the big highlights, well, I think the general themes of the show really were copilots and plugins. And all of these things are either to put the generative AI tools where you're actually doing your work, or plugins to help developers actually, you know, develop these types of applications so that people can do their work better. It all comes down to that. Whether it's sort of the end user who needs, the AI tools right at their fingertips while they're doing a PowerPoint presentation or they're summarizing meetings and not having to toggle back and forth. There's just sort of a general UX refinement for developers and consumers that we saw across the board. And really, when you think about like the developer shortage, I think, when people talk about AI is going to take people's jobs, there's probably some truth to that, but the reality is that this is going to help so many people do their jobs better. And it opens up a ton of new jobs just in development, in product development, in software development, there's so many things where maybe you don't have to have a master's in data science now to actually help do analytics in your company. So there's a lot of upskilling and sort of opportunities that AI is building, as well as, there's just this, let's put aside that fear of like it's taking all the jobs,
Yeah.
which I think is a bit of hysteria.
Yeah, so my point of view here, I mean, early on, we saw glimpses of Microsoft 365, so Office, Teams, pretty much everything. So it was really the Microsoft show. And we have yet to see those yet. I know those are being tested with customers, but the thought of converting a Word document to a PowerPoint document to Word document, having stable diffusion, integrated images that are available in PowerPoint, where you just basically type what you want and it
Yeah.
magically creates them. But this build was all about developers and developers inside of enterprises, developers for other ISVs that through these copilots and plugins can get some added extra benefit. I already know that part of my research, I'm already using Bard, Bing with Copilot, and even. But now I got to tell you, the results are shaky. They really are. I mean, I would say that half the time they're wrong, which just drives me crazy. And it's kind of like a keyboard that 99 out of 100 time the keys are correct, or 50% the keystrokes are there. You're just not going to use it. So not that I'm getting sour on it, but when there's a level of precision in work like ours, right? I mean, it's validating that we're not going to be replaced anytime soon out
Absolutely.
there, and the source of truth is somewhere, and you can put it into a human, you can put it into a system, but we've got a ways to go here. So, not to be outdone by Microsoft Teams, Zoom brought its federated approach to AI, and Zoom, right? Not just video, not just audio, but they're building out a full stack with whiteboarding. They're bringing out call center
Yep.
capabilities. You wrote an article on this, in fact.
I did, yeah. So Zoom had made an investment into Anthropic, which is the behind the Claude large language model. But I think their approach here is interesting because they're not just tying themselves to one source, right? They're saying, I mean, one, Zoom has their own AI that they've been using for years, including generative AI. But they're taking just this, what they're calling a federated approach of being able to incorporate their own chatbots into, like you said, call center, into their sales analytics, into pretty much every part of the business. And also use third party, and then be able to, for the customer to incorporate whatever AI platform they're using. So they're just taking a really flexible approach to letting people create their own AI experience within kind of, their company sort of module, I would guess, to be really flexible on how people are using it to manage their meetings, their call centers. Like you said, it's across their entire platform. But interesting approach, and you don't hear about Claude as much as you're hearing about,
Yes,
you
Claude. Tell us about Claude.
know.
I think Claude. I think of some, I don't know, 1950s butler or
I
something. I
know
don't know why,
it
but
is funny. Yeah, it is. The name is, all these names are funny. There's Claude, there's Bard, there's Zoe, there's, everybody has a name for him, which is funny because I think, what we have to remember is that these aren't humans, but when you name them, sometimes I want to say, well, he told me this, or she told me that.
right.
And, I actually, so long ago, before we had the AI to do this, I helped to program a chatbot for lottery.com, where I was chief marketing officer. And we had to actually manually go in and program it, and give it a voice and a personality. And I decided it was going to be a girl. Lottobot was a girl. And but just imagine how much time I would have saved if I had this. Like, really, it's all about productivity. There's going to be all of these sort of, what do they call them? Like answer trees, where you say one thing, it's going to steer you in this direction. But what I think this is going to help to stop, and what drives so much productivity for companies who are adopting this, is it stops that loop of constantly like, am I getting what you're asking? No, let me talk to a person, So it leaves the people to do the work they want to do, and the more meaningful work. Which actually, that kind of takes us to our next topic, if we want to jump there.
Yeah,
I know.
let's dive into Teams. I mean, God forbid the Microsoft Teams VPs talking about meetings being energy suckers. We don't have that problem at More Insights and Strategy because we don't do meetings.
Right.
We just decided that if it's not about projects, then we're kind of not going to do them.
It's not happening.
And I've had folks push back, and I probably have gone to the opposite extreme after 12 years, but I learned after 20 years in big business, are meetings suck.
Meetings suck. I know. Well, that's not exactly what she said, but she wrote, Nicole Hertzovitz. She wrote
Yeah,
a really interesting article in Fast Company about that meetings do to suck our time and energy, and it kind of goes back to what I was just saying of, if you let the AI do some of the work, and it's not going to automate everything, and it's not going to take over people's jobs, but if you let it do some of the meeting summaries and all of the things that, like scheduling a meeting, think of all the things that you have to do to schedule a meeting. You have to put it on the calendar. You have to develop an outline, and send everything out to everything. If you can use some sort of AI to do those things, then you actually have the brain power to brainstorm, to discuss issues, to collaborate. So I think it's a kind of funny sort of just play on words of like, meetings suck, but really they do suck, right? Like you were saying. So I think it's great to hear a leader of a collaboration tool like Teams come out and say it's sucking up your time and your energy. There's lots of statistics in there that we can go through, but I know we're trying to rush through because you are currently the busiest. Well, not currently. You're almost always the busiest man alive, but with 6.5 Summit, you're even the busiest man alive.
there we go.
And but anyway, yeah, I think it just shows a lot of really good use cases of letting AI do the work that allows you to free up your time to do the better work. And we had a lot of talk that whole week of build of things like this, but there wasn't a whole lot of talk about meetings, and I wanted to just highlight that this was actually something that was kind of on the agenda for our last pod that we didn't get to. So
There we go. We got to it. We didn't even have to have a meeting to discuss. Isn't that cool?
right? See,
Just kind of take the shot.
that is absolutely
Okay,
true.
let's dive into hot or not, kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell us about zooming while zooming.
So this is a really hot trend right now, and I think this is where I go back to, like, Zoom really nailed it with their, like, brand as a verb. Nobody's going to ever get away from this. So this actually comes out from Cisco just announced another partnership for WebEx with Audi. But even with that, even when people are talking about WebEx on Audi, WebEx on Mercedes, people still call it zooming while zooming, or you're having a Zoom meeting in your car. So, but really what this is the zooming while zooming. Like, is it hot or not? Do we really want people to have more meetings in general, but more meetings in their car? There's definitely a safety issue there. I think every company who has some sort of integration, whether it's, actually Cisco kind of brand or named this like good, better, best. So we started out with good, which is Bluetooth, right? That's good enough to make a call on most cars, but you're going to have background noise and all the things. Better, you have the app interfacing with the car's head unit with like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. That's better. There's also better safety tools with that, because when it's in the car's interface, it knows when you're driving. It'll tell you, you can't have screen, whatever. It'll kind of block other distractions. And then best, which is the native apps built for car manufacturer.
Yeah.
So that's where the safety features can really come in handy, because sometimes, like, I could be having a meeting and be sitting outside of, if I'm a salesperson, I'm sitting outside to make a call in person at a customer, but I actually need to sit in my car and be in a meeting. This enables you to do this from your car and actually be on video. The video will not launch if you're driving. It will only launch if you're parked. So it's sort of this good, better, best, and each iteration has more safety features built into it.
Does that have
So
a camera by chance?
yes, in the
Okay,
Mercedes one.
so that's what this thing is right here.
Yes. So those are options that can be built in. That's for the E-Class Mercedes. But really now WebEx has integrated directly into Audi cars. Some Mercedes only E-Class for now, but they'll be adding others. But they started out with Ford and they're Apple. So I think they're really doing a good job of letting people work where they are, but also as they go into these, like, kind of, like I said, the native apps built for the auto manufacturers, they're able to build in more safety features that make this really less of a hazard of, like, I'm going to have meetings from my car, because we all know how distracting that can be. The other thing is, with all of this AI technology with noise cancellation and everything, you can have a pretty good meeting from your car. And between the good cameras and that can isolate what's around you, and noise cancellation, if you're even driving in the car, people always say dogs barking are the biggest thing. You're taking your dog to the vet, the dog's barking, it can isolate your voice, so you can actually be on your meeting, be productive no matter where you are. It's really just, hybrid work is not going away.
Yeah, long term, right? You're going to look for autonomous driving, which is, you're driving half the time, part of the time, and right, you'll be doing meetings as you're streaming down the road.
Yep.
Hey,
I'm working from
guess
everywhere.
what? Our
Sorry,
work never ends.
it's hot. My
Yeah,
verdict,
I'd say it's hot. Yeah, I like it. It's hotter to me when it's autonomous, but
Yep.
Say, what's coming up? You're part of the 6.5 Summit, aren't you?
I am, and I'm very excited about this. I've had some really interesting conversations. Can't wait to see them in completion. But talked to Eli Greenfeld, CTO of digital media at Adobe. I'll be talking to James McCall, Chief Sustainability Officer at HP, and Heidi Brandow, VP of Talent and Growth at Cohesity. I love these topics. So, with Firefly or with Adobe, I got to talk about Firefly and generative AI
Oh
and
my gosh.
images and production with for marketers, which of course I have a passion for that. And Eli is he is not what I would call a typical CTO. He's very engaging. He's clearly very smart, but he's not just talking just the technology. He's talking about how people use it, how it changes workflows. Just really interesting. And then of course I'm very excited about all of the things that for ESG and sustainability, and especially as I have just started my certification in sustainability risk management at Yale. And I love to say that, just throw that out.
Yeah.
It's Yale,
Yes.
Yale School of Management.
Hey, we've got an
Um,
Ivy Leaguer on the team. This is great.
yes, it's so exciting. So I love to hear from people like this who just, James McCall, who's Chief Sustainability Officer at HP. He's been doing sustainability and for 25 plus years. He's not a newcomer to this. So I'm just excited to learn from people like that. And I'm excited for the the 6.5 Summit in general. I have never seen more leaders of organizations curated in one space. And I'm not just saying this because you're my boss, Pat. This is like, you you can't travel to a convention that's going to have hear from this many leaders in one space. You may have cool keynotes, you may have the celebrity show up or whatever, but never do you have just this big of a group of hot shots, smart people, really awesome content in one spot. So I'm just excited, and thanks
I
for having me be a
appreciate
part of
that. Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you participating in some very important uh, interviews, discussions that we have. But yeah, the 6.5 Summit, June 6th to June 8th. We're going all the way from chips to SaaS and everything in between. No ads, sign up. We're looking forward to it. We
and
have,
it's free.
and it's free. 60
That's another
speakers
thing.
from 40 tech companies. So yeah, we try to make it the Davos of tech without having to get on an airplane. And we feel like we've actually pulled in a bigger lineup than even Davos did for the speakers. So I want to thank all of you for coming in for this second episode of the Hot Desk podcast. We're hitting pretty much everything in modern work, the next new normal, whether that's generative AI, trends in hybrid, productivity tools, all of that. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are on the planet. Take care.